Some figures, peppered throughout history, have transformed our conception of the world as we once knew it. Their work is both groundbreaking and unavoidable within our current realities. And one such figure, whose contributions to cinema didn't just alter the wider conception and understanding of cinema, but also broadened the scope of what cinema as a medium was capable of doing and influencing, as the late Shyam Benegal. To pay tribute to this legendary figure, the Symbiosis Literary Festival seeks to locate him through his work and legacy in the panel titled Celebrating Shyam Benegal. May I request the panelists to please take the stage. Sunil Shanbag is a Mumbai-based theatre director and producer. He is the co-founder and artistic director of Theatre Aparna and Tamasha Theatre. Over the past 50 years, Sunil's work has spanned across themes and issues that concern modern Indian society, across class, caste, gender, and other inequalities. His key productions include Cotton 56, Polyester 84, Sex, Morality and Censorship, Walking to the Sun, Club Desire, Stories in a Song, Words That Have Been Uttered, Blank Page, Loretta, and a remaking of Prithviraj Kapoor's iconic play Diwar with the Prithvi Theatre Mumbai. More recently, he has recreated Utpal Dutt's classic play Barricade in Hindustani. Internationally, his adaptations of Shakespeare, Maro Piyu Gayo Rangoon, featured at the Shakespeare Globe in London over 2 seasons, and he has worked with Theatre Freiburg, Germany. Sunil is involved in training and mentoring young theatre practitioners and has been visiting director at Lalit Kala Kendra, University of Pune, Drama School, Mumbai, the Jyoti Dalal Liberal Arts Academy, Mumbai, and the Thrissur School of Drama in Kerala. He was visiting professor of practice at Ahmedabad University. Sunil is a national award-winning documentary filmmaker and is involved in several theatre and arts documentation projects. Sunil was awarded the Sangeet Natak Academy Award for Direction by the President of India. Pia Benegal is a celebrated costume designer and partner at Shyam Benegal Sahyadri Films. Her extraordinary journey spans over 3 decades in the Indian film industry. Known for her keen eye and meticulous attention to detail, Pia has brought to life some of Indian film's most iconic characters like Mammo, Sardari Begum, and Zubaida, creating unforgettable visual stories that resonate deeply with the audience. Her work in films like Droh Kal by Govind Nihlani, Dil Se by Mani Ratnam, Welcome to Sajjanpur by Shyam Benegal, and Aligarh by Hansan Mehta exemplify her ability to craft costumes that blend seamlessly with narrative and emotion, be it realistic, period, or royal. Her illustrious career includes celebrated historical dramas such as The Making of the Mahatma, Bose, The Forgotten Hero, Samvidhan, The Making of the Constitution of India, and Mujib, The Making of a Nation. Pia's designs in these projects capture the heart of historical narratives while blending authenticity with her distinct creative vision. More recently, Pia collaborated with director Hansal Mehta on The Gandhi, with 2 episodes premiering at the 50th Toronto Film Festival 2025. This project marks her OTT debut and highlights her continuous evolution as an artist committed to bringing authenticity, elegance, and emotional depth to every frame. Also joining the panel is Atul Tiwari, who I'm told is a little delayed coming here because of traffic, but I will nonetheless introduce him to you. Atul is an award-winning film script writer, theatre director, and museum maker. Atul has worked on the direction of a large repertoire of plays, from classical Sanskrit to modernist English. He has translated the works of playwrights like Shakespeare, Goethe, Brecht, and others to Hindustani. His original plays include titles like Shri Shri 420, Taus Chaman Ki Maina, and more. After his shift to Bombay, he began writing for films. His first work was Discovery of India, an Indian history series directed by Shyam Benegal. Since then, he has written more than 24 films as a screenplay dialogue writer, as well as many biopic films. Atulji calls himself a reluctant accidental actor, but has acted in several films such as Three Idiots, Samvidhan, PK, and many others. He works as a storyteller and creative director, has contributed to the creation of several museums, such as Gandhinagar's Dandi Kutir and Jange Azadi Museum in Kartarpur. Atulji has conceived, created, and directed feature-length multimedia experiences, installations, and traveling productions. He also regularly presents papers and teaches theatre, film, screenwriting, and history at universities and colleges across the country and abroad. Actively associated with many causes and societies, Atulji has bagged many awards and citations for his contribution and commitment to the cause of theatre, cinema, and literature. He has also served as a member of the executive board of the Sangeet Natak Academy. And speaking to the panelists would be Sudhanva Deshpande. Sudhanva is a publisher, author, teacher, theatre director, film and theatre actor, podcaster, and filmmaker. He was coordinator, SLA programs at the National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad, from 1992 to 94, and taught at the AJK Mass Communication Research Center, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi, from 1994 to 2004. He has lectured and led workshops in several institutions in India, Germany, the Netherlands, the USA, UK, Poland, South Africa, and Palestine. He has been publisher for 31 years. Since 1998, he has been managing editor at Leftword Books, and since 2017 at Vam Prakashan, both imprints of New Delhi-based Naya Rasta publishers. At Leftword Vam, he has published over 200 titles. Prior to that, he worked as an editor at Tulika Books at Orient Longman. He's the author of Halla Bol, The Death and Life of Safdar Hashmi, which has been translated and published in 7 languages, besides being converted into a podcast. His second book, Imposter, The Delightful Subversions of Aurojit Sen, is forthcoming from Leftword in autumn 2025. He's currently writing his third book, tentatively titled Nasiruddin Shah, Actor. He's the editor of the Theatre of the Streets, the Jananatya Manch Experience, the co-editor of Our Stage, Pleasures and Perils of India Theatre Practice in India. His articles and essays have appeared in the Drama Review, The Hindu, Frontline, Seagull Theatre Quarterly, Seminar, Economic and Political Weekly, Udbhavana, among others. He joined the New Delhi-based theatre group Jananatya Manch in 1987 and has acted in over 4,000 performances of over 80 plays. He has co-directed 2 films on the theatre legend Habib Tanveer and his company Naya Theatre, and acted in films and web series such as Pink, Grahan, Rangbas 3, and most recently, Jawan. May I request Sudhanva to felicitate our panelists on stage, please.
Thank you. What a pleasure being here. Atul is on his way. He's coming from Bombay. So there's been some delay on the way, but he should be joining us in a few minutes. But in the meanwhile, I just want to say that this is such a special occasion for us to be celebrating the life and the tremendous achievements of Shyam Benegal. As some of you might know, just yesterday, Pia Benegal has accepted the Filmfare Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Shyam Benegal. Which is, of course, more than befitting. I just wish it had come a few years earlier. लेकिन अब खैर क्या करें, देर आए दुरुस्त आए. This is one of the many recognitions of Shyam Benegal's work that have come his way. It's not for me to list everything. everything is available at a click. You can go to Google and so on and find out all the various awards and recognitions that have come his way. Mm, I was actually wondering, and we were talking about it backstage. This is a little question for the students in the audience, or let's say people under 30. Okay, only people under 30 are going to answer this question. How many of you have seen at least one film by Shyam Benegal? If you're under 30, please raise your hands. Right. Right. Okay, not bad. Not bad. Not bad. Right. But there are large numbers of you who have not seen a film by Shyam Benegal. And that's to be expected. How many of you watched a show called Unfiltered by Samdish? Or have seen Unfiltered? Are you fans of Samdish? I certainly am. So I watch a lot of his shows. I would really recommend to many of you, to those of you who do follow Samdish, to go and watch the episode on Shyam Benegal. It's a delightful, beautiful, warm, lovely episode in which, Samdesh, of course, is Samdesh. So he's crazy and he's lovable and he's funny. And he asks questions of Shyam Babu that, you and I would not dare to ask. Right? Right. Yeah. It's a lovely, lovely interview. So those of you who haven't seen that, sir. स्वागत है. तो श्याम बेनेगल साहब की अगर हम बात करें तो his body of work is enormous. But what I wanted to start with actually is a little poem that Atul here has written for and about Shyam Benegal and his work. तो अतुल जी, आपसे दरख्वास्त है कि अपनी छोटी सी कविता आप ज़रा पढ़ के सुनाएं और उस कविता का क्या सिग्निफिकेंस है वो भी आप बताएं, क्योंकि अभी हमने एक छोटा सा यहाँ पे पोल लिया था जिसमें हमने 30 से कम उम्र के जो लोग थे उनसे हमने कहा कि आपने अगर एक भी श्याम बाबू की फिल्म देखी हो तो अपना हाथ खड़ा करें, और मेरा अंदाज़ा है कि लगभग मे बी 20% of the audience raise their hands. So there are lots of people who are here who are not very familiar with Shyam Benegal. They have of course heard his name, but they have not actually seen work by Shyam Babu. So I would request you to not only read the poem, but also tell us something about the poem. Please.
Thank you, Sudhanva, for making me the opening batsman. And apologies to everybody that I have arrived late. ये पोएम, इसको पता नहीं पोएम कहना भी चाहिए या नहीं. And can I speak in mixed Hindi and English, or is it okay? Sure. So this poem I wrote some time back, and it tries to take the names of all the films that Mr. Benegal made in his life, which is about 26 or 27 of them, and in the same order that he made the films. So that's an interesting thing. And बाकी पता नहीं इसको कविता कहना भी चाहिए या सिर्फ तुकबंदी कहनी चाहिए, ये एक अलग बात है, वो जावेद साहब तय करेंगे. And though this book, which I wrote on Mr. Benegal last year, which I'm so grateful to whosoever is up there, that he could release before he went away. This book is in English, but this poem, because I wrote in Hindi and it's very difficult to translate poems, so this is in Hindi. The title is Salam Shyam Benegal. अब इसमें आप उनकी फिल्मों के नाम देखिएगा. अंकुर एक रोपा तुमने और कर डाला निशांत. अंकुर एक रोपा तुमने और कर डाला निशांत. मंथन की बांधी भूमिका कर अनुग्रहम संभ्रांत. एक जुनून से कलियुग तक आरोहण तुमने खूब चुना. एक जुनून से कलयुग तक आरोहण तुमने खूब चुना, मंडी सजाई, देखा त्रिकाल, सुसुमन का अंतर्नाद सुना। सूरज का सातवां घोड़ा ले, सूरज का सातवां घोड़ा ले, मम्मो ने सरहद पार करी। मेकिंग ऑफ महात्मा देख खिले, सरदारी बेगम, समर और हरी भरी। जुबेदा में लेके आए तुम, जुबेदा में लेके आए तुम एक रॉयल राजसी जादू जहान, और तुरंत फिर कह डाली नेताजी बोस एक गुमनाम दास्तान। वेलकम टू सज्जनपुर ने, वेलकम टू सज्जनपुर ने जोड़ा इस लंबी रेल में न्यू डब्बा। अब और कहें क्या तुमसे हम, वेल्डन अब्बा, वेल्डन अब्बा। और अब उनकी आखिरी फिल्म पे आते हैं। मुजीब द मेकिंग ऑफ अ नेशन ने एक नया इतिहास बना डाला। मुजीब द मेकिंग ऑफ अ नेशन ने एक नया इतिहास बना डाला। 90 सालों के नौजवान ने बांग्लादेश हिला डाला। अब भी नामुमकिन इनका रुकना, तूफान भी कहीं थमते हैं। अब भी नामुमकिन इनका रुकना, तूफान भी कहीं थमते हैं। मन से साधु, तबीयत से राजा, ये लोग अब कहां बनते हैं?
क्या बात है, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। ये जो किताब है ये श्याम बाबू के जाने से ठीक पहले आई और वो उसको रिलीज़ कर पाए, इसका हम सभी को बहुत बहुत आपका शुक्रगुजार हमें होना है, क्योंकि ये किताब आपके बिना नहीं बनती। साथ ही मैं ये कह दूं कि ये पीछे जो तस्वीरें चल रही हैं, ये तस्वीरें जो है पिया जी ने इस इवेंट के लिए क्यूरेट की हैं। 20 तस्वीरें हैं एंड दे काइंड ऑफ कवर हिज not every film obviously, but you see Shyam Babu going through the years, through the decades, and this photo for instance is, you know, father and daughter, but there are more photographs, and as we keep talking the photographs will keep rolling, so please enjoy the photographs as well.
Could I just add a line, Sudhanva?
Please, of course.
सुधनवा ने कहा कि ये किताब मेरे बिना नहीं बनती और मेरा शुक्रिया है, लेकिन मेरा ऐसा कहना है कि ये किताब सुधनवा के बगैर नहीं बनती, बिकॉज वॉट एवर आई रोट, सुधनवा एडिटेड दैट एंड गेव इट सम शेप दैट दिस बुक केम आउट.
So I'd like to start with you, Sunil. When you first worked with Shyam Babu, you were a young man. So tell us how you came into that orbit, what was the work that you did, and share some of those stories with us, please.
Yeah, so we are talking about the late 1970s. I'd started working with Satyadev Dubey in the theatre in 1974. I was around 17 and a half at that time.
And Satyadev Dubey is?
Satyadev Dubey was in his time one of our legendary theatre directors, a bit of a maverick, crazy, but brilliant. And I spent 10 years working with him, first as an actor, and then as an assistant, as a drinking partner, etc., etc. So in the 70s, it was an interesting time, not just in India, all over the world. There was a kind of a new wave of ideas, you know, with the Vietnam War and the Martin Luther King in America and all that was happening in India. There was the start of the parallel cinema movement. So it was a time of turmoil and a lot of churning. And there was a lot of crossover audiences, you know. Theatre people saw parallel films, parallel film people saw theatre. You know, we went to music concerts, political activists were involved. So in that time, Shyam Babu and many other film people would come and see our plays. And that's how my first contact with him. Otherwise, there was really no other way I would have known him. And then later, one day out of the blue, I got a call from his office because, you know, he began as an ad filmmaker. So I got a call from his office saying that Shyam Babu is making an ad film and he would like you to be in it. And I was like completely taken aback, you know. So the next morning, early in the morning, I get into this van with half a dozen young models, really fit young models, and get driven to Mud Island, to the beach. In those days, it was glamorous to shoot at Mud Island. And we did this ad film, and at the end of when they shoot an ad film, then they have to take shots of the product. They call them pack shots, and that's an assistant does that. The director then leaves. So Shyam Babu was driving back to Bombay, and he said, "Do you want a ride?" And I said, "Sure." So that 1.5-hour drive, that's when I really got to know him. And then our kind of, we got to know each other a little better. Then I did a film with him. And then, this television series, Yatra, then Bharat Ek Khoj, and then a couple of feature films. So it was a long, long association.
And on Bharat Ek Khoj and Yatra, of the two, which one was earlier?
Yatra was first.
Oh, Yatra was first,
Yeah.
is it? Oh, okay. So what was your involvement in these two projects?
I was co-writer on these projects. Yatra was Shama Zaidi as the senior writer and me as the new writer. And then we did Bharat Ek Khoj, where again it was Shama Zaidi and me. And then a whole host of other writers also joined in, because that was a huge 52-part, 1 hour each part series. So it was not possible for just two writers. So, and there were also other writers who came in. I think that's how Atul and many other people came into contact with Shyam Babu's work. So yeah, essentially I was a writer. I also assisted him as a direction assistant in Yatra. So yeah, that was what my connection was with him.
And just for context, for those of you who were probably born after the monopoly of Doordarshan was over, these were two series that came on Doordarshan. These ran for over a year each. Yeah.
Yatra was shorter. It was 14 parts.
Yatra was shorter, right.
But Bharat Ek Khoj was 53 episodes.
53 episodes.
Yeah.
So that's
a whole year.
A weekly, every Sunday morning.
Every
I think
Sunday morning, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are massive projects, and they are available on YouTube.
Yeah, Bharat Ek Khoj is completely available on YouTube.
Yeah. So I would actually recommend those of you who might be interested in Indian history to take a look at Bharat Ek Khoj. Fantastic episodes with great actors and great music and fantastic writing and so on. And Atul, your entry into Shyam Babu's world happened at that time, but I want you to describe your very first encounter with Shyam Babu before you talk about anything else.
Well, I was, in a way, mentally into the films in my small town of Lucknow, which fortunately had most of Shyam Babu's films released there. It's not like today when the art films and good films are not released in many of the places and you have to wait for the OTT. At least OTT brings them in. So those days I had seen Shyam Babu's work and one had loved his work. Then his team came to Lucknow to shoot Junoon. And I tried to meet him at that time, which was an unsuccessful attempt. I could not meet him. Though I had met Satyajit Ray in Lucknow when he was shooting for Shatranj. Anyway, ultimately one day, my theatre teacher from Lucknow, Professor Raj Bisaria, I told him that I'm going to Bombay for the first time in 1984, August 84. So he said, "Arey, Bombay ja rahe ho, tum ek kaam karo, Shyam ke liye ek meri taraf se gift lete jao." And he gave me a bottle of single malt. So I had never seen a single malt. I did not know कि single malt नाम की कोई चीज़ exist करती है और क्या फ़र्क क्या होता है उसमें. Sorry, educational institute में हम लोग अच्छी बातें कर रहे हैं. ये ड्रिंकिंग पार्टनर की बात कर रहे थे अभी और मैं सिंगल मॉल्ट की बात कर रहा हूँ. खैर पता चला और मैंने वो ले लिया और उन्होंने एक चिट्ठी भी दी, ये भी दे देना श्याम को. और मैं बहुत खुश हुआ और मैंने, क्योंकि I was already a kind of a writer and a kind of a playwright. From the School of Drama, I had already finished my NSD. So I wrote a whole script in my mind कि फिर मैं श्याम बाबू से मिलूंगा, उनको ये बोतल दूंगा, साथ में ये डायलॉग बोलूंगा, वो हंस के ये जवाब देंगे, फिर मैं ये कहूँगा, फिर कहेंगे आओ बैठो, और उसके बाद में बातचीत शुरू होगी, फिर वो कहेंगे बताओ मेरी अगली फिल्म कब लिख रहे हो. तो ये सब तो बन चुका था दिमाग में. अब खैर बम्बई आया, मैंने बम्बई आने के बाद में उनको फ़ोन किया तो उन्होंने कहा कि ओके गुड यंग मैन, कम टू माय होम. एंड ही गेव मी हिज एड्रेस, संगम बिल्डिंग, ये वो. और मैंने कहा ये तो बहुत ही अच्छा हो गया, ऑफिस ऑफिस में मिलने का कौन झंझट, सीधे घर ही बुला रहे हैं, बहुत अच्छा है। तो मैं उनके घर पहुंच गया, वो सिंगल मॉल्ट की बॉटल लेके और एक उनकी चिट्ठी लेकर के और अपने आप को लेकर के, और घंटी बजाई मैंने। मुझे पता नहीं था कि कौन फिल्म वालों के यहाँ दरवाज़ा खोलता है। फिर बहुत हमारा तो तस्वुर, हमारा इमेजिनेशन ही अलग था फिल्म वालों की ज़िंदगी का। खैर पता लगा श्याम बाबू ने खुद ही दरवाज़ा खोला, एंड आई वॉज वेरी वेरी एनामर्ड लुकिंग एट हिम. And he said, yes, tell me, young man, you are Atul? मैंने कहा, yes. Says, oh, very good. So, what has Raj given for me? तो मैंने कहा, सर ये एक तो एक ख़त है आपके लिए और ये बॉटल है। और उसके बाद में, इसके पहले कि मैंने जो डायलॉग रिहर्स किया था बोलने के लिए, वो बोलता है, उन्होंने कहा, ठीक ठीक, गुड यंग मैन, सो विल मीट सम टाइम, ओके, बाय, थैंक यू वेरी मच। और उन्होंने दाड़ से दरवाज़ा बंद कर दिया। तो मुझे लगा कि अब तो इस आदमी से कभी मुलाकात नहीं होगी, कभी बात नहीं होगी, और दैट वॉज इट। लेकिन बाद में जब वो डिस्कवरी ऑफ इंडिया बना रहे थे और मैं दोबारा बम्बई आना मेरा हुआ 86-87, जब भी, जो भी सही सन था वो सुनील बताएंगे आपको, और उसमें बहुत नेशनल स्कूल ऑफ ड्रामा के लोग काम करते थे। ट्रेन्ड एक्टर्स के साथ काम श्याम बाबू ने हमेशा से किया, अपनी पहली फिल्म से लेकर के, विच इंक्लूड शबाना आज़मी फ्रॉम द इंस्टीट्यूट इन पुणे। तो तब हमारे दोस्तों ने कहा कि चलो तुमको मिलवाते हैं श्याम बाबू से। हमने कहा चलो भैया फिर मिलते हैं, इस बार शायद कुछ बात बने, और हम फिल्म सिटी गए। और उस दिन उन्होंने मुझे जिस तरह से बात की, और ऐसे बात की कि मैं तो उनका इक्वल हूँ, और जैसे मैं तो बड़ा एक्सपीरियंस राइटर हूँ, और उसी दिन से उन्होंने तय कर लिया कि तुमको मेरे लिए कुछ लिखना है, और यहाँ से यात्रा शुरू हुई मेरी।
And so Pia, Atul just spoke about, what we imagine film people to be like. Yeah. And of course, many of us have no idea because we are not from that world. You were born in that world. But a slightly different idea of what a film world might be like. Could you speak about your childhood, growing up in a film family, in a filmmaker's family, but not not the glamorous Bollywood type kind of family? Could you speak about your childhood, growing up? What did you see, and what did you experience as a child?
While I was growing up, I was aware that my father was a filmmaker because he was very busy making ads and documentaries. But he was so busy that he was never around. So what was very apparent to me was a filmmaker or anybody in the film industry was largely invisible. So the time I got with my father was really on the weekends. So that was very precious, time. Weekdays was no time at all. It was work and only work. And I think that is the way it is in the industry. And as a person from the industry, I've realized that is the kind of investment the person does when you're working in the industry. You lose some and you gain some. So that happened with my father as a parent. And but when he was around, he invested a lot of very precious time with me, and that time was very special because he was around and gave me a lot of, he invested time with, in terms of, I'm rambling now. He guided me with, when it came to music, theater, film, and books. And from a very young age, he was around. With my favorite film person was Charlie Chaplin. We had a huge Chaplin poster in the house. When he went abroad, he would come back with my favorite things, but he was never physically around. But he was always there in fits and starts. But that time was very precious for me. And he introduced me to science. He introduced me to architecture, to astronomy. He introduced me to international music, to Indian music, classical music, jazz. He introduced me to different kinds of food. And he taught me how to use chopsticks when I was 6 years old. And in fact, I beat him to using chopsticks. I became better than him, you know. So we had all this kind of stuff, you know, competitions and things like that. And we we had a small little dining table in the house. So when he used to get back from work, we used to play table tennis on that tiny dining table. We had a rectangular table right in the beginning, you know. And, but that's when I was very young. And so this was the kind of time when it was downtime for him from his advertising days, you know. And then once he started making feature films, he had less time. And he got even more busy. But the weekend time, when he had a little bit of time, then it was more classical music, and he would teach me more about Indian classical music, and we would go for different, let's say, dance performances. He introduced me to Kathakali, and I absolutely fell in love with Kathakali. And he asked me when I was a young child, what do you like about Kathakali? Because Kathakali is so slow as a form. So I said, I love the grandeur. I love the costumes. I love the makeup. So he said, for a child, you like that, but what about the form? Because it's all so slow, you know. So I said, but I like that slowness too. So then he actually explained why the eyebrows are moving, the cheeks are moving, and then we used to discuss all this, you know. And then as I grew older, I realized, you know, then actually I don't have the patience for it any longer, you know. But it was the grandness. So he spent a lot of time with me when it came to certain subjects that I really took to, you know. But he was really quite a wonderful chap to have around, you know. Yeah, because he was like a wonderful chap, you know, a good friend. He was a wonderful friend, yeah. He was never a father, you know. He wasn't somebody who would hit me on the knuckles and ask me, don't do this, or something like that. No, he was a wonderful friend, very good friend.
And I mean, I was never lucky to meet him or to work with him. I mean, I met him very briefly a couple of times, but you know, it was just a formal thing. So I didn't know him personally at all. But a number of people that I know, friends of mine, have worked with him, have known him for a long time. My father also did a little bit of work with him. And one of the things that everybody talks about is actually two things that everybody talks about. One is the wide learning that he wore very easily, apparently. He wasn't one to sort of sit you down and give you lectures or anything.
No.
But the moment any conversation with him was enlightening, was one thing that I've heard about him. The other thing is the innate sophistication and decency of the man. He was an extremely decent person. Could Sunil, you...
Yeah, well, absolutely, you're right. I mean, just listening to Pia, he was a truly, you know what we used to call in those days, a true Renaissance man. Okay, he was interested in everything. And he had read deeply about everything. So this, you know, this car ride that I was talking about from Mud Island back into the city, as we drove through that old part of mud and getting out to the highway, he started telling me all about the entire Portuguese history of Mumbai. Okay, so I'm listening, he's pointing out buildings to me, etc. And all the way through, it was just like one fascinating first-person history lesson. Okay, and not a dry history lesson, extremely lively, illuminating. And being with him, working with him, the work was just one part of it. The actual magic were the conversations. Okay, it was like going to university. It was like going to informal university, and he was extremely generous with his knowledge. You know, he would just share it, and because he spoke to you like an equal, it wasn't like top down. You don't know, so I'm telling you. It was never like that. It was like shared excitement. You know, it's like two friends sharing the excitement of something that one of them is interested in. So working with him, that was the spin-off. I mean, rest of it, the films got made and everything else, but the conversations were fantastic. Even meal times, because he was an expert on food. I mean, there was nothing he didn't know about, actually.
और अतुल आपने
I'm
बहुत
so-
साल जी प्लीज
I'm so
प्लीज
happy that Sunil has used the word university because I had a habit of in the morning 9:30 call my family and they'll ask me क्या है आज का प्रोग्राम तो मैं उनको सिर्फ एक ही लफ्ज़ कहूँगा आज यूनिवर्सिटी जाना है तो यूनिवर्सिटी जाने का मतलब ही होता था कि आज श्याम बेनेगल साहब के साथ जाना है और कोई प्रोजेक्ट नहीं है काम नहीं है कि इस स्क्रिप्ट पे काम करना है बस उनके साथ 2 घंटे 3 घंटे बिताने हैं 11 बजे से लेके 1-1:30 बजे तक जब तक वो घर चले जाएंगे फॉर हिज लंच he used to always travel from his office to home and in that 2-3 hours is the university time it did not when I was driving here I was looking at the GPS and there were so many institutes within the Symbiosis कि ये इंटरनेशनल स्कूल है ये मैनेजमेंट स्कूल है ये फलाना स्कूल है ढिमकाना स्कूल है तो वहाँ पे एक ही जगह सारे स्कूल मिल जाते थे आपको किस चीज़ का आपको स्कूल चाहिए कि आम का स्कूल चाहिए कि अमरूद का स्कूल चाहिए कि इंटरनेशनल पॉलिटिक्स का स्कूल चाहिए कि पिकासो का स्कूल चाहिए क्या चाहिए आपको जो चाहिए था वो वहाँ मिल जाता था
Shyam Babu, of course, made a number of films, and a number of these films have become landmarks in the history of Indian cinema. And of course, it's impossible to name just one film that stands out in all of these because his body of work is just extraordinary. But I would still ask each of you the same question, which is actually two questions. One part of the question is, if you had to name 2 or 3 of your favorite Shyam Babu films or projects, let's say, you know, like series, which would those be? 1. And 2, since there are lots of students here who have not yet had the benefit of encountering Shyam Benegal's work, which work do you think would be a nice entry into his world for them? So please answer both the questions. 1, your favorite 2, 3, 4 works that speak to you a lot, and also what would you recommend to our young friends here? Whoever wants can start.
The second part of the question is very difficult because, you know, his films are quite different. They weren't the same kind. But my personal favorite has always been the film Bhumika. It's based on the autobiography of a very, very famous Marathi screen actress from, the early days of cinema, Hansa Wadkar. The Marathi title, I think, is Sangte Aika. Listen while I speak. And that was then adapted. It's not absolutely, in the sense, doesn't follow the autobiography closely, but he uses this as a vehicle to talk about the early days of cinema and the role of women, actually. And it's a extremely powerful film. It has been made with great, you can see the love for the world of cinema in the film. And that's been and gorgeous music by Vanraj Bhatia. Gorgeous music.
And fantastic
Great performances. Great performances.
Oh my God, each one of them.
Each one of them. Smita Patel, Amol Palekar, Amrish Puri. I mean, the works, you know.
Yeah. Even Naseeruddin Shah in a little
small
role.
Absolutely. Benjamin Gilani as a young hero, so amazing thing. So that, but I don't know, I mean, in the sense that he didn't make young films in that sense, as you see the categorization. But I would say, he made films that were also comic, but which said something. All his films had something to say. So the form could be comic, it could be, a grand drama. I mean, take a film like Kali Yuga, for instance. Kind of contemporization of the Mahabharata, set in a, very, very powerful industrial family located in Mumbai. So he did a lot of these kind of experiments. I think people should just dip in and see what kind of catches their interest, actually.
You can't really, it's very difficult for me to say that this one is better than the other. But like Sunil has mentioned, I really like Bhumika a lot. And with Bhumika, I would mention Mandi. The performances in Mandi are just outstanding, just like Bhumika. There's not a single a poorly cast character in Mandi or in Bhumika. And
Monday, in fact, I should say, I recently rewatched maybe 3-4 months ago, and I must say that it is aged very well. It speaks to us in a way that, let's say, some of the cinema of that time doesn't really speak to us.
Many of his films will do that, even today. Many of his films. And Monday is
As
today,
Bhumika.
actually Monday today will feel more radical than its time.
Exactly.
Today
Exactly.
you will wonder, oh my God, this
Exactly.
film couldn't get made today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
correct, exactly. So,
But please go on. Yeah.
so with these two, I would say, sadly, a film like Summer was not really seen. It was just went to a few film festivals and never really got released. But that was also a really very good film to see. And I do hope that is seen and released at some stage. And another film that never got the kind of release that it should have got was Antarnath. You know, Anugraham is a Telugu version, and Antarnath is the Hindi version.
Kondura and Anugraham.
Kondura, sorry. Kondura and Anugraham, sorry. But it's the same. That was really wonderful. Made well before its time, the story. And I hope at some stage it will be released again. So these are films that were really outstanding, you know, and not seen properly, the viewership.
Atul?
I would not like to repeat what earlier speakers have said, that it's very difficult to choose from the Shyam Benegal Souvre. But still, somehow, his very first film, Ankur, still remains my favorite. Not only because it's a great film, but also because Ankur, when it came, and I also write in my book that in the last scene of Ankur, actually the last shot of Ankur, when this little boy in the village picks up a stone and throws it at the glass pane of Zamindar's house and the glass shatters, that shattered many a glass ceilings in society, in the habits of watching cinema. ऐसा नहीं था कि गरीबी इसके पहले हिंदुस्तानी सिनेमा में दिखाई नहीं गई थी. हमारे पास 2 बीघा ज़मीन भी थी, हमारे पास में मदर इंडिया भी थी, सब चीज़ें थीं. लेकिन फिर भी ये एक जो छोटा सा पत्थर जो फेंकता है बच्चा वो, और चीज़ें बदल सकती हैं. कि मुझे एक शेर याद आता है जो मुझे ठीक से याद नहीं है, जावेद साहब माफ़ कीजिएगा, कि कौन कहता है कि छेद आसमान में हो नहीं सकता. एक पत्थर तो तबीयत से उछालो यारो. तो वो जो तबीयत से जो एक पत्थर उछाला गया उस फिल्म में, तो उसने न सिर्फ उस फिल्म की कहानी को एक नया मोड़ दिया, पूरे हिंदुस्तानी सिनेमा को एक नया मोड़ दिया 70s में. और इसलिए मेरे लिए वो बड़ी एक इम्पॉर्टेंट फिल्मों में श्याम बेनेगल की वो मुझे लगती है. उसके बाद में सीरीज़ की बात करना बहुत ज़रूरी है मुझे लगता है. और जैसा कि सुनील ने कहा और आपने भी कहा कि डिस्कवरी ऑफ इंडिया में अगर किसी को हिंदुस्तानी हिस्ट्री को बिना सो मेनी बोरिंग बुक्स पढ़े देखना है तो उसको देख लीजिए, आपको समझ में आ जाएगी 5000 साल का हिंदुस्तानी इतिहास. यू कैन सी दैट. एंड सिमिलरली व्हाट ही मेड इन 2014 a series, a 10-hour long series called Samvidhan, that is the Constitution, on the story of making of the Indian Constitution. I am told that today every law school in India, and I'm sure, I don't know whether Symbiosis has a law school or not, it is watched. No, I'm not sure, so I'll not say. So it is watched in every law school in India. And the year before last, I happened to go to the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy where the ISS are trained. And there, they knew me as the one scene, 1 minute actor from the Three Idiots. After that, I said, do you also know what I have written? What is my writing work? They did not know, like young people here have not seen Shyam Benegal cinema, etc., etc. And then apart from other things, when I told them that I have also written a thing for Mr. Benegal called Samvidhan. Oh, Samvidhan, sir. So everybody, all the 800 of them who were there to be in that year, to be the IAS after 2 years, had seen that, because that has become a window for them to understand Indian law, Indian constitution, Indian legal system. And so that's a very important series today for our history, unless until the constitution gets changed.
Which we hope it won't be, except for the better.
Yes.
But I should also say that this was also typical of Shyam Babu, in the sense that this was his way of giving back, wasn't it? In the sense that this came at the time after he had finished his term as a nominated member of the Rajya Sabha, and he felt that he felt that it would be appropriate for him to sort of acknowledge the time that he spent in Parliament by making this series. Am I right in?
You are right. Actually, he was offered this series. I mean, offered means ऐसे ही बातचीत में सेंट्रल हॉल में उन दिनों जो वाइस प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया के हुआ करते थे, हामिद अंसारी साहब, he and Mr. Benegal were meeting in the central hall, which is now called the Samvidhan Sadan, by the way, the old Rotunda Parliament. And that's where he said that why shouldn't you make something on such an interesting story of making of the Indian Constitution? And Mr. Benegal said, yeah, it's a great idea, but I'll not make it now, because it will be against the appropriaty of me being a member of the parliament and making something for the parliament. तो बिल्कुल ही हो गया कि जिसको हिंदी में कहते हैं कि अंधा बांटे रेवड़ी और फिर अपने को ही दे, जो कि हम सब देखते हैं रोज़ी कि किस तरह से पॉलिटिक्स में इन्वॉल्व लोग करते हैं. और मेरे ख्याल से जावेद साहब भी को टर्मिनस थे उनके साथ में थोड़े समय के लिए, 2 साल के लिए कुछ को टर्मिनस थे. और अच्छी बात सुधनवा ये भी हुई कि बाद में जब वो जैसा आपने कहा, जब उन्होंने पार्लियामेंट से वो निकल गए, तब उन्होंने इसको बनाना तय किया, सो दैट देयर इज नो व्हाट इज द क्लैश ऑफ इंटरेस्ट, या क्या कहते हैं, जो भी देयर इज अ लीगल टर्म फॉर
मतलब कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट तो खैर एक बात है,
ऑफ इंटरेस्ट ना हो. और उसके बाद में जब उन्होंने बनाया,
उसकी प्रोप्राइटी का सवाल था.
प्रोप्राइटी का सवाल था. उसके बाद में जब उन्होंने बनाया तो हमारी राज्यसभा ने एक कमेटी बनाई कुछ 4-5 लोगों की, और उसमें जावेद साहब भी थे. तो जो स्क्रिप्टें हम लोग लिखते थे वो जावेद साहब के पास भी जाते थे. और मैं बड़े फ़ख्र से कह सकता हूँ कि जावेद साहब ने या और भी किसी कमेटी मेंबर ने कभी एक भी पॉइंट पे हमको रोका नहीं. इस तरह की रिसर्च बेनेगल साहब हम लोगों से करवाया करते थे, और इस तरह से लिखने के बाद में वो हमारी स्क्रिप्ट आगे जाती थी.
I think one of the things that stands out about Shyam Benegal's entire oeuvre of his entire filmmaking career, for me personally, I'm talking about myself, is the very strong women characters that you see in his films. Sunil has already spoken about Bhumika, you spoke about Mandi, but there are so many others, starting from Ankur, in fact. Ankur, Nishant, Manthan, and so on and so forth, right down to Zubaida and Sardari Begum and Mammo and so on. There's a long list of very powerful female protagonists in his films. And it is only fitting, therefore, also that an actor of the caliber of Shabana Azmi makes her entry into the film industry through Shyam Benegal. Smita Patil didn't, I suppose, technically make her debut with him, but did some very important work with him.
Did make her debut with him.
Apparently, there's some earlier film that she had acted in, but I'm not very sure about that. Maybe.
I don't know of that. She used to, her debut was on the television as a newsreader.
Right, okay. Well, I'm mistaken about that then. But, so what I wanted to ask Pia in particular was, where did this this vision come from in his cinema? His strong female characters, where have they come from? Is there something that you can tell us about maybe his upbringing, or his worldview? What can you tell us about the strong female characters in his films?
Well, whatever little I know is that he was surrounded by, in his home when he was growing up, he had a very gentle but quiet, strong mother, and he had six wonderful sisters. He had his father, uh, in his own way, was a believer in educating all the children, and he came from a large family of 10 children, six girls and 4 boys. Now, he had told his children, particularly the boys, that I will pay for the education of the girls, but for a few boys, will have to earn your education. And you better slog it out and get your scholarships. It's the girls who matter. So all of them had to work very hard and get their grades and get promoted and things like that. So it was a lot of emphasis was given to the girls and women in that family, and he was brought up in that kind of environment. So I think, all the women were given a lot more importance, and I think it has a lot to do with the reading and the kind of company he kept when he was in school and college, and then when he moved to Bombay. And I think he grew into a young man who actually, and also a professional, where at heart he was a feminist, and you can see that in his films. And he didn't wear it on his shoulder, and he wasn't screaming feminism, but he was very much a person who wanted to take that forward, and that is very visible in his films.
I'll just pose a last question to the three of you, and then we'll open it up to the floor for questions and queries to you. It seems to me that Shyam Benegal is a kind of an embodiment of the best values of post-independence India. Yeah, would you agree with this, and how would you see the larger arc of what he's trying to do, and his engagement with history, his engagement with politics, his engagement with contemporary, changes in society, and so on? There's hardly an important aspect of Indian society, be it class, caste, urban-rural divide, etc., gender, patriarchy, sexuality, and so on, that he's not touched upon. He's really touched upon all of it. But he comes to it with in my view, what are really the best values that were given to us or were bequeathed to us by our independence movement, and that are sometimes called Nehruvian values, though it's, I think, unfair to reduce it to one name. So would you like to reflect on this a little bit?
No, I think what we discussed earlier, the fact of, see, the Renaissance man as an idea, the Renaissance person, I should say, as an idea, actually deals with this, that you have a much larger worldview that encompasses everything. Most important, sees connections between things. I think Shyam Babu actually was at this cusp, where we were moving from the possibilities of this kind of worldview, the larger empathy for humanity, and and a great empathy for the marginalized and those who didn't have a voice, into moving into an age of specialization, of categorization, of silos, to the point where today we live in such tiny little worlds. In the name of specialization, we hardly know what is beyond our own immediate concerns. So I would say that, it's sad, but he represents the last of that possibility that we had. And somehow, if we can get back to it at some point in our history, I think it would be wonderful.
Well, like Sunil has said, that yes, he was one of the last Renaissance men, and a true gentleman too. And it was really wonderful working with him professionally, because he was a wonderful person on set and off set too. And in the professional environment, I think most people have said that around me, and also people I have not worked with, have said that it was always a family environment to be on set. And having worked in that environment, I think that was the best working space to be in, really. And I think Atul has been there, and so has Sunil. So I think, and besides that, he was one of the calmest directors to have on set, because he never lost his cool, ever, in a crisis situation. So I think I wonder how he always kept his cool when there was some sort of major crisis. He was still able to find things and ways of solving it without anybody knowing that something was going wrong, and nobody was getting stressed on set, and nobody knew about it, you know. He was just the coolest guy, you know.
Atul?
You know, I totally agree with what Pia has said, that the coolest guy on the sets. There was no question of raising a voice on the set at all. And a couple of things I would like to mention here. There was a term which became very popular about 10 years ago, was the minimum government, maximum governance. In the same way, at Shyam Benegal sets, there was least directing and maximum transference of the vision. I don't know how he achieved it. Through a kind of an osmosis, everything rose to a certain level. Not that he is showing that I am the director, listen to me, and I have this to tell and that to tell, and no, nothing. Quietly he'll come and tell you and do something right here and go away. And you saw the performance rising from where to where. So this was a kind of a magic transference which happened in him. Like the minimum government, maximum governance kind of a thing. A couple of other things is, and you know, Sunil, I had mentioned this thing when we met last time in a seminar in Kolkata about Habib Tanveer Saab. He was also a member of the parliament, member of the Rajya Sabha once upon a time. But when I look back, what he achieved in 6 years in Rajya Sabha, I could hardly point my finger on. राज्य सभा में जाने वाले मेंबर्स ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट में बहुत कम लोग ऐसे हैं जो कुछ आके वो मेंबर्स जिनको प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ नॉमिनेट करता है, बुलाता है, वो चाहे प्लेयर्स हों चाहे कलाकार हों. अब सचिन तेंदुलकर ने क्या किया मुझे नहीं पता, रेखा जी ने क्या किया मुझे नहीं पता, सॉरी मैं अपनी ही थाली में छेद कर रहा हूँ, फिल्म इंडस्ट्री का हूँ. लेकिन जावेद साहब उन वाहिद लोगों में से हैं जिन्होंने कम से कम हम आर्टिस्ट्स के लिए एक पूरा बिल पास करवाया, जिससे कि कॉपीराइट बिल से आज बहुत सारे कलाकारों को, बहुत सारे म्यूजिक डायरेक्टर्स को, बहुत सारे गायकों को, बहुत सारे लिरिसिस्ट को उनके राइट्स मिल रहे हैं. इसी तरह दूसरा नाम जो आता है, जो कि जावेद साहब से पहले रिटायर कर गए, तो पहला नाम उनका आता है, वो है श्याम बेनेगल साहब, जो अपने ज़माने में लैंडलेस लेबर्स को कितनी लैंड क्यों मिलनी चाहिए इसके लिए पूरा बिल लेके आए. प्राइवेट मेंबर बिल्स को पास होना बहुत ही मुश्किल होता है, क्योंकि उनके पीछे किसी पार्टी का हाथ नहीं होता है. जावेद साहब विल टेल यू दिस. तो वो भी पास नहीं हुआ. लेकिन सवाल ये है कि एक आदमी का इतना कंसर्न था कि एक बिल तो लेकर के आया, उसने कुछ किया, तो कोशिश तो की कि कुछ बदले इस सोसाइटी में. तो इस तरह से एक एमपी हो जाना, सिर्फ क्योंकि मैं एक अच्छा क्रिकेटर हूँ इसलिए मैं एमपी बन जाऊँगा, और एमपी बनने के बाद क्या करना है, ये एक बहुत बड़ी बात थी उस आदमी में. अपनी तरह का एक एक्टिविस्ट भी था वो आदमी, फिल्म मेकर तो था ही. और छोटे से छोटे आदमी को भी, एक बार मैं ऑफिस में बैठा था, कुछ मथाड़ी, यू नो द हेड लोड वर्कर्स जो गांधी टोपी जैसी पहनते हैं, कुछ मथाड़ियों का एक 6-7 मथाड़ी अंदर ऑफिस में घुसा है. तो मैं डर गया, मैंने कहा कुछ प्रोटेस्ट हो गया, नीचे कुछ गाड़ी बढ़ गई, क्या हुआ. और वो आके बैठे और मराठी में बोल रहे थे. तो श्याम बाबू थोड़ी सी कम मराठी समझते थे, उन्होंने कहा नहीं बताओ क्या क्या क्या. वो अपनी लड़की की शादी का कार्ड लेके आए थे कि मेरी लड़की की शादी है, गाँव में आप आएंगे. तो उन्होंने कहा हम आ तो नहीं पाएंगे, लेकिन तुमको बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं. उन्होंने कुछ पैसे निकाल के दिए उसको, ये बात ख़त्म हो गई. उसके एक हफ्ते बाद जब मैं फिर ऑफिस में गया तो एक लेटर डिक्टेट कर रहे थे अपनी सेक्रेटरी को. आमतौर से क्या करते थे, कार्ड वार्ड जो फालतू डाक आई उसको फाड़ के फेंक देते थे. ये लेटर ये रखा हुआ था इनविटेशन कार्ड, एंड ही वाज डिक्टेटिंग अ लेटर आफ्टर 1 week of having received this personally, and he was writing a letter to that Mathadi whom he had already given 500 rupees to go, that please write this letter that sorry I have not been able to come there despite your invitation, but all my best wishes are there. I'm sure you will receive this letter on the day of the wedding, etc., etc., etc. इतना caring कौन आदमी होता है दुनिया में आज की तारीख में? आप मुझे बताइए कि आप किस अपने नौकर के लिए, चपरासी के लिए, और वो आपके नौकर भी नहीं, वो सिर्फ आपके मोहल्ले में नीचे गाड़ियाँ खड़ी होती हैं वहाँ पे, तो वहाँ पे सिर्फ हेड लोड वर्कर्स हैं, उनके लिए कौन इतना करता है? This sensitivity is what is seen in all of his work.
That's wonderful. I'd like to open it up to the audience. जी, वहाँ पर एक बहुत फटाक से हाथ ऊपर हुआ है. जी बताइए. इनको माइक कोई दे दें वहाँ पे.
Thank you for letting me ask the question. So it's for all of you. How do you think is the situation of writers in the film industry right now, and how can the writer just push their scripts which are more in line to parallel cinema instead of these conventional commercial films that are coming right now?
अतुल जी, मुझे लगता है ये सवाल आपके लिए सबसे ज़्यादा है.
Well, the state of the writers has somewhat improved because of the interventions of people like Javed Saab. As I told you, now you can get some royalties. There's a whole thing set up, etc., etc., etc. But you are right that still the writer, because he's not seen, though he's the first man who comes in a project, so he's still not given the kind of a treatment which he deserves, because ultimately everything boils down to that seed that the writer prepares. After that, the director will go and sow it in the right soil and water it right and give it the right sunlight, and then the things will grow up and become a cinema. But that seed, still we are not investing enough in that seed. So there I agree with you. And but I'm sure that, let's hope that the things will change. And with the OTT coming in and the ways of seeing changing, in OTT the writers have a much better kind of a place than it used to be in the older cinema. But in older cinema also it depends. I mean, there were people like Mukharam Sharma, whose name used to come in the posters once upon a time. But then in between there was a time where the writers were not mentioned, and a person like Javed Saab and Salim Saab had to get their names painted with a stencil on the posters, because they knew that this film is doing well because of us. So how can you hide our names? So there was a period like this. But again, with the OTT and things, I suppose the things are getting a little better for the writers.
Thank you. I'm here, a student from Nepal, and the influence of Shyam Benegal, of course, extends beyond boundaries. It has been a generational tradition in my home to watch his works, including Bharat Ek Khoj. And like Atul sir began his poem with the planting of a seedling, Ankur, right? Which culminates into that scene towards the end where this young boy has that caste class consciousness. As aspiring writers, filmmakers, storytellers, how can we deepen our understanding, pose such metaphors and critique both subtly and sharply, is my question.
Sunil, would you like to take this question? Please, 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 please. Please, come on.
No. Well, you know, there are various aspects to your question. I think it's a very relevant and a very profound question, but there are different aspects to it. One is the learning to do something like this, right? Which can be taught, the skills, etc. The other is that the fact, when you ask a question like this, I imagine that this is part of your preoccupation as a young person who wants to write about these things, right? And I think that is something that I'd really like to pick on and hold on to that idea. I think it's fantastic that in this time and age where there is so much cynicism, that you as a young person actually want to figure out how you can actually do this. It's not easy. Atul just talked about OTT, etc. And so, you know, when Bharate Khoj was written, when, you know, all these things took place in the 80s, 90s, those were fairly innocent times, okay? The corporatization of media had not taken place. All of us were experimenting. We didn't know, we didn't have formulae that would, you know, A plus B will give you C. We didn't know those things. We didn't know the new technology. We were experimenting and trying it out to the best of our abilities. And that's why you see that this period has some of the most interesting work simply because people had space to experiment. My worry today is that with this age of corporatization, that space for experimentation doesn't exist. There is a reduction to everything is to algorithms and formulae. And that is against the spirit of storytelling and of human nature. So that clash is a problem. Now, either you fight it and find your way through that maze, or you work independently, all right? And I think that's the way you will have to, that's the choice you'll have to make. That the independent way of working is harder, very difficult, but much more fulfilling, or you work out strategies to find your way through this maze of the corporate world.
Yes, thank you for the panel discussion. It was really insightful. My question is to you, Sunil sir. So I happened to watch Taos Chaman Ki Maina when I was a kid. And I wanted to ask hypothetically, if you make it into a film, what would be the transition? Because in a theater, there's a different kind of a feel, there's a different kind of a limitation, and when it comes to cinema, it can be a difficult process. So I wanted to ask, if hypothetically Taos Chaman Ki Maina happened to be a film, how would you make it, and what will be the process?
I'm really sorry, I'm not familiar with this play.
I think it's to Atul.
Yeah, that's Atul's play. Yeah.
It's Atul's play.
You have addressed the question in a wrong direction because Taos Chaman Ki Maina was written and directed by me. So you have seen my play, Taos Chaman Ki Maina, which was based on an Urdu short story by Nayyar Masood Saab. And I turned that short story into 2-hour-long play with songs and this and that and everything. You are very right. And after that successful theatre production, the Z film people contacted me and they wanted to turn it into a film. And I said, how will you do that? So they said, no, we'll shoot this because it's such a successful play, we'll shoot this, the play itself. And I said, no, please don't do it. So my teammates also said, we are getting some money, let's take it. I said, no, it's going to bring bad name for us because in a play, in theatre, well, willing suspension of disbelief, as has been said about any drama on stage, whether it's happening on screen or here, you also willingly suspend your belief that this is Amitabh Bachchan. You say, no, it is Vijay. It is not Amitabh Bachchan for that 3 hours. Theatre, this willing suspension of disbelief happens even more strongly. So in theatre, to see a girl child as a girl child and a 3 inches taller girl as a bird is possible. But when you see it in a camera frame, you are not going to believe that this girl is a bird and this girl is a girl. It's not. So if at all Taos Chaman Ki Maina can be made, it can be made either through an animation film or a mix of real and animated characters. That's my answer.
All right, thank
you
you very much. I'm sorry, we are out of time now. And I just want to thank Atul, Pia, Sunil, all 3 of you for having shared your experiences, your memories, your insights about the work of Shyam Benegal. And for all of us, this is also a reminder to sort of go back to the work of Shyam Benegal because of some of the people who have defined a certain trend in Indian cinema. I think Shyam Benegal really stands out head and shoulder above everyone else. And he remained a filmmaker who was deeply committed to the people of this country till the very end. And I think that's really very, very moving to have somebody of his stature being so alert and so alive to things that are happening around himself, to constantly engage with it, engage with the reality around him, and to create these beautiful works of art for us to enjoy for many, many, many decades to come. And once again, Pia, a very warm congratulations to you and to Shyam Babu, and a big salam on the Filmfare Award, but also everything else that he has left behind for us. Thank you so much.
Sudhanva, would you allow me a line, just a line, and then please come back. It will be very wrong on my part if I don't convey a message to you, because one of the longest collaborators of Mr. Benegal, that is Shabana Azmi, had to be here today, and this seat belonged to her on which I am sitting. But she has sent her apologies that she couldn't make it today because she has had a fracture in her foot. So that's why she could not be here. So she told me when I met her this morning that please tell them that I wanted to be very much here because it is Shyam Babu, and she publicly called Shyam Babu his guru, touched his feet and all that. And but she wanted to be here, she could not be here, so I'm just bringing her message to you people that how much she is missing being here. And that's it, friends.